you did not plot out the events in true life. Did you plot out the narrative at all for Tumbleweeds?
Well, Tumbleweeds is sort of a fictive condensation of the four True Life books with some other things thrown in. There's one scene in Tumbleweeds where uh, Manny Cole, his father, who drove a health department van, comes and gives free vaccine shots or whatever it is to people, and that's actually something that actually happened, and it was amazing. It's very similar to what happened in a scene in A Tree Grows in Brooklyn, but
Mm.
I did plot it out a bit more because it's fiction. But again, each of those books you'll see has 64 chapters. So what I would do is I would maybe fill in, okay, here's 42 chapters that I know are going to be in. I plot the general outline, but I also have blank chapters because, as I said, once I get through the first 7 chapters or writing stuff, and sometimes I don't do that. Sometimes I will just go around and I'll do chapter 43 might be the chapter that I wrote first in the book. But as I fill things in, then I'll say, oh, okay, now I know. I thought of a character, for example, in the Vincetti Brothers, 2 characters that came into that book as I'm writing it are called Big Frank Concetto, a mobster, and the Norwegian, which later I gave the book a Norwegian in the family to, because of those 2 characters that arose in the middle of writing Vincetti Brothers. So, I mean, I had a bare skeleton outline, but what actually came through, that's something that, as I said, 20% of the way in, I said, oh, I got to put this in a chapter. Oh, I don't have anything for chapter 51. Let me put it there. And there's a famous quote by John Huston. I think it's John Huston, although it's been attributed to other people. He's a Hollywood director from the golden age of Hollywood, who said something like, a good film or a great film is 4 or 5 great scenes, and then you string the stuff together and you have a great film. And
I've heard that too.
yeah, in certain ways, there's some truth to that. I make everything great. I don't like to have just passages or a chapter that's just connected. There has to be something in each of the chapters. But as you have the overall plot and you start filling things in, it's sort of like people, if you've ever seen people putting insulation in their homes. They use this foam, they spray the foam in the house, and then it swells up to 10 times its size. Well, that's sort of what I do with the art, is that, I'll put down the basics of that, and then I might go in on a day for, say, a scene that I'm writing in a play or whatnot, and I'll say, okay, this is the scene where this character and that character are going to argue. I don't know what the argument's going to be about, but as I'm writing it, something from my undermind comes up. It's the convective way my mind works, like a convection current. Something's stirring in my id, and then vroom, it comes up, and bam, I'll say, oh, so this is what the argument's about. Then I'll say, oh, the argument that I had in scene 11 of that play, now I need to go back to scene 3 and just throw in, sometimes maybe it's just a word or a sentence that acts as the augury for what's coming in scene 11. And that's how you do things organically. You let you play, you're open to things. And as you're starting out any work, every choice you make starts opening things up. It's like entering a home. There's the one door that opens there, but you can go in this room or that room. If you go in this room rather than that room, then you have to go into those 2 or 3 other rooms, etc. And then there comes a point, though, when you've passed the 50% mark stuff, and each choice you make starts closing things down, so that the work, you might not know what the ending is going to be, but when you're getting to 85, 90% in, the ending becomes inevitable. Not that it's cliched in that sense, inevitable, but it crystallizes and say, that's how I'm going to end it. And so I'll have a work for, there are many times I've had a work and I said, this is my idea of what it's going to be like, but I don't know the specifics. When I get to the end of the work, I will have hit most of the points. Some I may not have the points that I was going to have in, but I'll have something better than I originally started out with, because I've been open to letting the influences come into me and letting my mind go. Creativity isn't just one thing. Aha, I'm going to write this. You know, when I wrote A Norwegian in the Family, the first thing that came to me was the first word said by the Norwegian that opened the book. But I didn't know what the rest of the book was going to be like. I thought that book was going to be smaller than the Vincetti Brothers, which is like 603,000 words. I thought A Norwegian in the Family was going to be maybe 250, 300,000 words. Still a long book, but then it became 2.5 million.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's a very long. It takes a long time for it to load on my computer. It's very interesting. I can't think of any other book that's quite that long. Boy. Well, I can't wait till I'm done with the Vincetti Brothers. But at the same time, I don't really want to finish it. It's a great pleasure to be reading it, actually. Like, it's nice. Every single chapter, there's actually like a point to it. I just passed the point where the Vincetti Brothers' father, his sons are being bullied. Yeah. And then the story is like how he gets after them. But then Manny Cole's like, now look, this might be apocryphal. I don't know, but this is accordingly what he made them do, but maybe it's not what he made them do.
Yeah.
And I'm really enjoying myself so far. I must say, I'm really enjoing myself.
Yeah.
Real quick, before we, unless you want to say something about that.
No, go ahead.
Before we finish, because I think we've gone pretty far. I would really like. I see this interview as like, we talk about true life, we're talking about arts and stuff like that. But I have a lot of friends back home who I really want to read your stuff. And before this point, it's just been like, well, I've met this guy on the internet. He sent me some novels and stuff, and I want you to read them. I think this is a really good introduction to. I could send them this video and tell them like, why here's more information for you. I just have a couple quick questions. A selfish question actually, because you have a lot of opinions on certain writers. Like your opinions on Shakespeare is pretty big. Pretty interesting for me, quite frankly, because it's funny how most people about 10 or 12 of his best poems, but no one knows who wrote King Jonathan. Shakespeare wrote King Jonathan, but no one's read it. No one has any idea what's inside King Jonathan because it's not as good as the other ones, I guess.
Well, is that one of the disputed plays? Because King Jonathan doesn't. He has 37 supposed canonical plays, and then there's 4 or 5 others. So is that one of the 4 or 5 that's disputed?
Oh, I have no idea. All I know is it's in his works that they include every single collected editions. I'm not sure if it's not, but even if it's not, then there's other ones that literally just no one talks about them. Mm-hmm. No one talks about them. The guy who supposedly never wrote a bad word, and 60% of his body of work is not even really studied that often.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah. Well, I'm not one of those people that think Shakespeare was a bad writer, and I don't think Shakespeare was not Shakespeare. Everything points to Shakespeare being William Shakespeare or whatever it was written, and I don't think he was gay. I mean, some of the poems that are supposedly the Dark Lady poems or poems written to men, he's taking a fucking female point of view in 90% of them, and the 1 or 2 that might be from a male perspective are not even really particularly sexual, but a lot of people like to make that kind of shit up. Shakespeare was certainly a great writer. If you're going to tell me that Shakespeare was the greatest writer in English language or world history, well, that doesn't say much about the world then, because I said this before. If I was like Woody Allen and went to sleep for 1,000 years in some they cut off my head and froze my head and then revived me in 1,500 years or something, and I came and there was a cult of Schneider, like there's a cult of Shakespeare, I'd be like, what the fuck happened? I would be there should be in 1,500 years at least a few dozen writers that have gone beyond me in that time, because if they haven't, then the culture and human mind has stagnated.